radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this, what is it, Thursday? First show of November 2022. Can you believe it's already November? God, this year has gone by fast. Although it seems like as you age, every year goes by fast and they seem to get faster and faster. It's not right. It should be the other way around. But anyway, it is what it is. And here we are on the 3rd of November. I am in New York, as the title might suggest, in New York City. I'm actually in a hotel room, out my windows that way. I'm looking right down. What am I looking down? I think that's Broadway, right down Broadway, all the way basically to Columbus Circus. So I can see all down Broadway. I'm right on Times Square, which is pretty cool, although filled with people, so crowded as hell. I'm here for some business meetings. I will be flying home tomorrow, so expect shows on the weekend from home. Won't be home for very long. I travel next week to Indiana. I'll be speaking at the University of Indiana in Bloomington. So if you're in the area, please come join us. The event is open to the public. That will be on Wednesday. No, that'll be on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, I'm speaking at Akron University. Akron University, that's just outside Cleveland. So again, if you're in the area, if you're in Cleveland somewhere, drop by. I'll be speaking around noon. So both these talks are in the middle of the day. The one in Akron is, I think, at noon. The one in University of Indiana is probably around, I think, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ike says there's nothing in Indiana. Not much, but there is Indianapolis, and there's the University of Indiana Bloomington. So I will be there. Let's see what I say. Akron. And then I'll be speaking in Denver, Colorado on Friday and then heading back home. The week following that, I will be giving a talk in Costa Rica. So if you guys are in Costa Rica, hopefully you come and see me talk. And in Mexico City. So Costa Rica, Mexico City. Mexico City is hosting an Ayn Rand Latin America Ayn Rand Center Latin America conference in Mexico City. So busy schedule pre-Thanksgiving, and then I'll be home for a week in Thanksgiving, and then I'm off again to University of Texas in Austin, and where I'm doing a debate, C.S. Lewis versus Ayn Rand. That's an interesting one. C.S. Lewis versus Ayn Rand, diagnosing the causes of cultural decline. What are the reasons? What are the solutions? And then I'll be in Connecticut to give a talk, and that'll be it for the year. Then I can rest. December is basically, I'm chilling in December, doing a lot of these shows and chilling. December, most of January, we'll relax until we start traveling like crazy again. All right, so where are we? Catherine is here. Catherine Mendez is here. That means you're going to be reminded about the Super Chat on a regular basis from Catherine. That's her job. She is here to encourage you to support the show. I do have a bunch of Super Chat questions from last time, but I promise to get through all of those. And, no, that's not right. We've got, oops, this doesn't look like it's working today. What's going on with, I didn't press start. All right, there we go. Super Chat questions. I promise to answer all the Super Chat questions tonight as well as the ones from the other day. And we'll get through everything. And the goal is $650. Hopefully you'll show your support and your love in the Super Chat. All right, so we've got a bunch of topics to cover today. Yeah, we don't have Europeans on today because I started so late that I'm sure the Europeans, it's too late for them. So it's all up to you Americans, and probably heavier emphasis on the West Coast than on the East Coast today because of the late time. I'm sure a lot of people are already asleep. 9 p.m. here on the East Coast. All right, so we're going to talk about windfall taxes. We'll talk about the Israeli election, some observations about the Israeli election and what one can learn from it. We'll talk about the Brazilian elections, some observations there. I know a little bit more about Israel than I do about Brazil, but it's interesting to talk about Brazilian elections and what we can expect for the future of Brazil. But let's start with the U.S. Let's start with President Biden basically going on television and threatening, yeah, threatening the oil companies, the U.S. oil companies, basically saying to them, you either start taking your profits and investing them in more oil production, or we're going to tax them. We're going to basically steal them from you. We're going to take them from you. Now, this is outrageous and immoral and stupid economically on so many fronts. It really is hard to know where to begin. I mean, Biden, like most leftists, are clueless when it comes to economics. They're clueless when it comes to incentives. And of course, in this case, they are in complete denial, or more appropriately, in complete evasion of the consequences of their own actions, So if you remember, in the debates with Trump when Biden was running for president, Biden basically declared that he wanted to end the oil industry. In the left generally for the last, 10, 20 years has been advocating for eliminating fossil fuels as a source of energy. They have restricted the building of pipelines. They've restricted the opening up of new areas for oil drilling. Probably maybe the best thing the Trump administration did while Trump was in office was the opening up of offshore drilling, of many other areas. Generally, energy policy was a strength of the Trump administration. And Biden and the Democrats have declared that they would reverse all that, and they've done much to reverse all that. And clearly, we have an administration that is dedicated to, and has been dedicated to, and declared that it will become even more dedicated to in the future, the annihilation of this industry, the entire industry. And they are dedicated to providing disincentives, at least they were until recently, disincentives for drilling for new oil, for new oil explorations, for investing in oil explorations. Indeed, I remember a year ago in January of 2022, before the war in Ukraine, before anything, I was at an investment conference in Miami, and met somebody I've known over the years, and he was starting a new fund, and what they were doing was raising money. And he basically said, look, the oil companies will not invest in new production because the atmosphere in Washington, but the atmosphere, the ESG atmosphere, ESG, environment, society, governance, driven by BlackRock and others, the atmosphere from shareholder activists, from pension plans who are shareholders, from the largest shareholders in the country, CalPERS and CalSTRS, the California pension plans. Everybody is telling oil companies, you must not drill, because by drilling, you are killing humanity. You are destroying planet Earth. You are making it impossible for human beings to live on the planet. You are causing the climate to change. So stop drilling. We want prices of oil to go up. We want there to be a shortage of oil, because that'll drive investment into windmills and solar panels and other magical animals. That's right. I owe I owe a review of that movie, Magical Animals and Other Strange Beasts, or something like that, which I will do this coming weekend. I saw the movie, so I will do it. Anyway, since Biden became president, before Biden became president, and for years and years and years now, the Democratic Party overall and the leftists in Congress and the ESG movement and the climate change movement and everybody else have been all companies, anti-investment, anti-growth. If you remember, I think it was Exxon, had 3 board members elected who were basically elected under the platform of, we want Exxon to stop drilling for oil. We want Exxon to diversify away from oil. We want it to become some other company other than an oil company. Complete insanity. Now, when the winds shift like that politically, unfortunately, most of these oil companies are going to say, yeah, I mean, every time we drill, every time we start new production, every time we invest in capital expansion, every time that happens, we get hammered. We get hammered in the marketplace by these institutional investors. We get hammered by the government. The government wants our necks. So let's not invest, and let's just, benefit as the price goes up from the windfall profits that exist. Because what happens in a normal market? Well, in a normal market, if there's a shortage because of a war or because of some supply constraints, then prices go up. Prices go up. Companies look at that and say, whoa, prices are up. And they invest in more production. They go drill for oil. Which supplies more oil, which causes prices to come down. Every market is the same. It always happens. This is kind of the beauty of a free market, is that it self-corrects, that supply matches demand, that prices gravitate generally downwards. This is why it's unnatural, for example, for home prices in the United States to only go up. And the reason for that is supply constraints, political supply constraints. Because when prices go up, you've got a massive incentive for home builders to build massive quantities of homes, which drives the prices down. It's a self-correcting, beautiful mechanism. Problem is that when you constrain supply, either through regulations or through other forms of pressure, as Biden, Democrats, and their allies throughout the culture have done for years now, then what you get is an industry that says, we're not going to invest. We're just going to watch prices go up. We're going to benefit. We're going to rake in the windfall profits, and we're not going to invest them. We're going to give it to the people who deserve them, who have invested in our company and who basically are shareholders. We're going to give it to the owners. We're going to give these profits to the people who are the ones who are brave enough and strong enough and committed enough to invest in fossil fuels. And this, of course, is causing Democrats to flip out. Because what has happened is, before the war in Russia, they seemingly didn't care. They thought they had this all handled. Yes, prices were going to go up a little bit, but overall, that would drive investment into solar and wind and so on. But what's happened is prices have gone up a lot. And as a consequence of that, what has happened is Democrats are not very popular. The Biden administration is not very popular. As a consequence of the war in Ukraine and constraints on supply and OPEC restricting supply, what you have now is a limited supply. Demand is still strong, although as we head into recession, demand will weaken. And prices are up, and all companies are making a lot of money. Russia's making a lot of money. Saudi Arabia is making a lot of money. And Democrats are going to lose big in the elections next year to a large extent, or to some extent, because of gas prices. People are blaming them, as they should, for high gas prices. So Biden is furious because the market's not working. The market's not working the way it's supposed to work. Well, when you don't allow the market to work, when you threaten the market, when you penalize the market, when you put political pressure on the market, yeah, it doesn't work, Biden. Go take a Econ 101 class. So they're panicking. They're going to lose the election next week. They might lose it very big. And they want to do something that'll lower gas prices, that'll lower energy prices. So they need to get the oil companies to invest. And oil companies are saying, we're not going to invest as long as you have this anti-fossil fuel mentality. We're not going to invest just so you can screw us later. So Biden says, okay, you don't want to invest, so we're going to tax this profit. In other words, we're not going to allow the owners of your companies to actually make money. Why? Logic, just because we hate you, just because you're not doing what we tell you to do. Political blackmail. Now, it turns out that Biden doesn't have the votes to get a windfall profits tax passed, so it's just blowing air, which is often what he does. Whoops, my computer just went flying. But just the idea of threatening. Now, it's, it's stunning, that people can't see the consequence of their own actions. The left can't see that they have created this problem that they are going to suffer from. They're the ones who caused oil companies not to be investing in new production. Yeah, they're gonna lose an election, maybe because of that. Serves them right. They deserve everything they get. Now, beyond that, while it is true that oil companies right now are making a lot of money, most of the time, oil companies are not particularly profitable businesses. It's super competitive. There is plenty of supply out there in an environment where you can actually access it. Margins are generally pretty low. Profit margins to profitability is fairly low. It's lower than the average, I think, of the S&P 500. It's lower, in other words, than other companies. Often, there are periods in which all companies lose money when there is, after a period where everybody's invested in production, everybody's invested in drilling, oil prices can tumble to levels. You remember, what was it, in 2020, where people were paying you to take their oil because oil prices were so low, and it was being stored everywhere, and people were running out of capacity to store, so they were giving it away. So in those days, oil companies had negative margins. In other words, they were losing money. Did the government then jump in to volunteer to soften the blow that they created because of COVID restrictions? I mean, no. And they shouldn't have. Let the cycles happen. But part of the cycle is that there are going to be periods in which the company makes a lot of money, and then other periods when they make very little money. It's none of the government's business. Just stay out of it. I mean, the whole tax regime that we have is completely irrational and immoral and badly structured and badly incentivized, and it's a complete disaster. But the idea that, today I'm going to increase taxes, tomorrow I'm going to triple taxes because you're making too much money today, is just so nutty. It's so non-objective. It's so random. It's so a feature of arbitrary power, of the kind of power that can be wielded whenever and at whatever. Am I frozen? Oh, it looks like I'm frozen. Not in a very nice pose. Can you guys hear me? You guys hear me, but you can't. But the image is frozen. Let's see what we can do about this. What can I do? Okay, trying to unfreeze the picture. Not that the picture is crucial. Not that you're here to look at me, in particular. My guess is you're mainly here to listen. Audio is working. We will have, I think. Yeah, we should have picture in a minute. All right, there I am. I'm back. So I think I'm back. Yep, we're back. All right. Video is back. So yeah, I mean it's just an illustration of how pathetic this administration is, how clueless it is about economics, how clueless it is about incentives and how incentives work. You want to get prices down of oil? I'd like oil prices to come down. You want to let prices come down? Change your attitude towards fossil fuels. Change your perspective. Start talking about the wonders and the fact. I mean, I'm looking out on the skyline of New York. I'm literally in the middle of Manhattan, near Times Square, and I see all the lights out there, all fueled by fossil fuels. I mean, it's a beautiful sight. It's an amazing sight. It's one of the greatest sights of planet Earth. The sight of great human achievement, the sight of great industriousness, a sight of, you know, people working and achieving and building and creating, all fueled by fossil fuels. None of this could exist without fossil fuels. I'm not even talking about, you know, every aspect of this. I look down on all the cars driving along. Not that many, actually. Broadway looks deserted. Anyway, fossil fuels. And yeah, maybe the planet's getting warmer, but you're not going to fix anything. You're definitely going to make things worse by criminalizing fossil fuels, by making fossil fuel production evil and portraying it as such. The consequence of that is less production will happen. Prices will go up. So if you really want them to go down, reverse course. Biden should come out with a speech saying, I made a mistake. I demonized the fossil fuel industry. I'm sorry. It's time to reverse course. I'm gonna open up federal lands to drilling. I'm gonna open up a new era for American oil production, off the coast, Atlantic, Pacific, up in Alaska, all over the United States, and natural gas, oil. You can frack as long as you're not violating other people's property rights. Go for it, and prices would come down tomorrow. They'd come down immediately because everybody would know that future prices would be low. OPEC, the cartel run by Saudi Arabia, would be panicking. The Russians would be hysteric. You want to really hurt the Russian economy? Drill, baby, drill. That'll do it as much as any weapons you send to Ukraine. Just free up the energy market in the United States. So don't do it in order to defeat the Russians. Do it in order to benefit the Americans. But the consequence of that is going to be massive collapse of the Russian economy, which is collapsing anyway. But this will accelerate it and destroy it, because it's an economy based almost completely on the sale of fossil fuels. And the United States, is holding the price high artificially because we have a government in power that is anti-progress, anti-economic growth, anti-fossil fuels, And guess what? This is the consequence. All right, let's see. So, yeah, I mean, let's say you could pass a windfall profit tax, and let's say you started taxing windfall profits. What would happen? Would oil prices go up or down? Well, they certainly would go down. They certainly would encourage oil companies to invest the money. All you would get is another unjust, massive redistribution of wealth. And by the way, windfall profit taxes have existed in the United States. It's not new. And again, I hate to make the equivalency, but it's not only Democrats that advocate for windfall profit taxes. Republicans, when they're in power, often advocate for them when prices go too high of oil, and they want to punish the oil companies, and they want to send a message, and they want to whatever. It's political theater. It's bad economics. It's bad policy. It's bad political theater. And, the nice thing is the Democrats are going to pay the price for it next week. I wish that paying a price for the Democrats meant something other than Republicans winning. But I guess we have a two-party system, and if the Democrats are going to suffer, the Republicans are going to gain. So we're going to have to suffer through the Republicans actually gaining. But Democrats deserve it. Just like Trump deserved to win, in this case, the Democrats deserve to suffer the consequence of inflation, which for the most part, not exclusively for the most part, they're responsible for. Partially because of their energy policies. All right, let's see. So we've got, I'm going to do the 20, I've got $100. I'm going to do the 20 and above Super Chat questions, and then we'll talk about these really elections. And if you want to ask me a question that I answer now, it has to be $20 or more. All right, Harper Campbell, $100. Thank you, Harper. That is very generous. Thanks for the support. So Harper says, I don't give popular contemporary thinkers, in quotes, like Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, a lot of credit. Because all they do is cash in a corrupt culture. The wave has been provided for them to ride on. When you get on JP's level in 20 years, that will be a real accomplishment. Do you know how old I will be in 20 years? It better happen sooner is all I can say. Because in 20 years, I mean, let's just be realistic here. In 20 years, I'll be 81. To do this extemporaneous speaking on a regular basis in front of audiences on this as many times as I do today, or as Jordan Peterson does at the age 81, not easy. Not easy. I mean, the sad reality is that these are, in a sense, these should be my peak years. These should be the years in which I'm the most productive, in a sense that I still have energy, I still have the physical capabilities, and I have the experience of all the years of doing what I've done. I have the knowledge, I have the experience, I have hopefully the wisdom. So these should be the most productive years of my life. It's now. It's the next 5 years should be peak. Peak you're on should be in the next 5 years in terms of production. So waiting 20 years, it's going to have to be somebody else. That's just the reality. Now, could be that by then we figure out aging, and there's a pill I take, and energy will stay as high as it is today, and I'll be as young as I am today, and nothing will change. And I certainly hope that happens. I'm skeptical, but I hope, and I'll do what I can to make it happen. But that is the reality we live with. It better happen sooner. And I agree with you that they're cashing in. But look, there are a lot of thinkers out there that are cashing in. It's still interesting to follow Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris because they are cashing in big time. So pretty much every intellectual in the world today is part of the wave. He's conventional. He's part of what's going on in the culture. Yet Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, from two different places in the culture, have managed to really, really ride this wave to be super successful. I mean, really super successful. And that is interesting. That is interesting. And worth studying and observing. And I also say that both Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson have interesting things to say. There's something worthwhile in listening to them. Not a lot, not on everything, but I do. I enjoy listening to Sam Harris, even when I disagree with him. I enjoy listening to Jordan Peterson, even when I disagree with him, because there's something special about both of them that has made them the superstars that they are. It's not just there's a wave. Well, there are lots of people, but why them? Why are they the ones that the wave is pushing up? Why are they the ones that are super successful? It's because they have something interesting to offer, and they are incredibly bright, and they have a particular way of communicating which is super appealing to people. And I certainly will say that I'm jealous of that ability and of the response that they're getting. I'm not envious, but I am jealous. I would love to have that. And I think not only would I love it, but it would be a sign that the world is really about to change. All right, let's see. All right, we got some $20. All right, John, this is a question for last show. John says, lots of Republicans I know seem to have become conspiracy theory junkies. I don't know how to argue with them. Skills in deprogramming would seem useful here, since arguing ideas with them seems futile. Yeah, I don't know how to argue people out of conspiracy theories, because it's not like facts matter to them. They don't. I still meet people who are convinced 9/11 was an inside job. And you can talk till you're blue in the face. It doesn't matter. They're done. Their mind, in a sense, is fried. And you know, on the left, you have the same kind of mentality of, first of all, on the far left, you have plenty of conspiracy theories. But you also have the mentality of, socialism will work next time. On the right, the susceptibility to conspiracy theories is very much a product of religion. I mean, think about it. Religion is the biggest conspiracy theories of all time. And go try to argue against religion, and yet it's a massive, in a sense, conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory with some mystical, invisible being pulling all the strings. But it is very frustrating. The people who seemed rational, who didn't appear to be religious, have been so captivated and so captured by the conspiracy theories. But it has the same kind of use of a faith, use of unreason, use of a sense of a form of mysticism, trying to prove a negative and asserting the arbitrary. So they assert something arbitrary, and then they expect you to prove it's wrong, which is impossible, of course, and wrong cognitively. You can't deal cognitively with the arbitrary, but it's very frustrating and very interesting. And I mean, the Republicans have completely lost it. But it is interesting, the combination of religion with conspiracy theories. You know, and I'll do a show on this, but Flynn, the first national security advisor to Trump, is on a tour right now and he's a QAnon at least sympathizer, at least he plays that part, and he's on a tour of churches right now, of these radical churches, and it's all conspiracy theory stuff, and it's all supported by ministers and churches and evangelicals. And he's on a tour, and you watch video of these events. It's scary, guys. It's scary. Very, very scary. All right. Lots of questions coming in. I need to get to these other topics. We'll get there. All right. James asks, Ayn Rand has barely made a dent in the West. How is she going to impact North Korea or Iran? Are we deluding ourselves to think we're going to see any significant changes in the world in less than 200 years? Why does she have to make a dent in North Korea or Iran? Why is that relevant? North Korea and Iran are insignificant in the big scheme of things. So she's not going to make a dent in Iran and North Korea anytime soon. I don't think you're right. I also don't think you're right in saying she hasn't made a dent in the West. I think she's made massive dents in the West. Massive dents. I think she's had a massive influence. The reason we're relatively wealthy in the West today, to some extent at least, can be attributed to Ayn Rand, to Atlas Shrugged. I think she inspired dozens and dozens and dozens of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world to create the wealth, create the products, to create the industries that we all benefit from. She inspired the people surrounding Ronald Reagan, inspired Ronald Reagan himself. She inspired the people surrounding Margaret Thatcher and the people surrounding, and I don't know about Margaret Thatcher herself, but certainly the people around her. She had an impact on the Nixon administration and getting rid of the draft. She had an impact, a massive impact, on a lot of people. Starting in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, those people went on to have incredibly productive careers. There was a period in which pretty much a majority of Fortune 500 CEOs, if you'd ask them about Ayn Rand, they would say she had a huge impact on their careers and on their productive careers. That's huge. That's not a dent. That's a massive dent. So I don't think it's relevant what happens in North Korea and Iran in that perspective. As far as I can tell, the battle is going to be fought in the West, in America and in the West. It might be fought elsewhere, but probably in the West. And that's where we're going to win it or lose it. And if we win it, Iran and North Korea will take care of themselves. Michael says, I often hear in university courses that humans can't be objective because we have biases we don't even know about. How do we know we have biases we don't know about? We only know about the biases we know about. Anyway, is this from Kant? It's like we're being punished or condescended to for attempting to be truth seekers. Yeah, absolutely, we're being punished for that. And of course, if you have a bias, the only way to discover it is through reason. So there's all this behavioral economics and behavioral finance where they look at people's biases and people behaving irrationally. They're not taking the right variables into account. They're not weighing the future right. All kinds of ways in which people are not being completely logical, not being completely rational. Well, that's great. Because the more research is done about things like that, the better we become as thinkers. And the only way to discover biases is by using reason, by using logic, by using rationality. So biases don't undermine rationality. They just suggest that rationality requires work, which is not anything surprising. We know, as objectives, we know that rationality is not automatic, that reason does not function in an infallible way and in an automatic way, that it requires effort. And when one doesn't put in the effort, the consequences are that we are going to make mistakes. You can call those biases. And unfortunately, most people on many issues don't put in the effort. They don't engage. Is this from Kant? In a sense, he gets the ball rolling by divorcing reason from reality, but it's not just Kant. It's again, some of the work that's being done on biases is legitimate. It's just that I don't know. It's like there's a desire out there to put people down, to put human beings down, to make us look inferior to what we really are. Again, I'm looking out on the skyline in New York. Wow, what a species. What a species. So, but Kant undermines human reason, and anybody, Christianity undermines human reason. All of these ideas are going to be destructive to success as human beings, and yeah, and are going to result in kind of condensation towards the truth seekers. Okay, Dave Goodman says, looking forward to your review of Shawshank Redemption. Coming soon. Promise. A drowsy Liama. What are your thoughts on the horror genre? Do you think there are virtues in horror, particularly in literature and film? I mean, I don't like horror. I don't enjoy it. I don't watch it. I avoid it. I mean, I've seen it in the past. I just don't like it. So I avoid horror. I don't think Ayn Rand liked horror movies, but Leonard Peikoff does. So, I certainly, the fact that I don't like horror does not dismiss the genre. I think the genre can be interesting. It can project heroism. It can project heroes. It just, has a certain malevolence to it and has a certain granting of efficacy to evil, which I don't like, and I don't sympathize with at all, and don't enjoy at all. So I'm sure somebody who enjoyed horror and somebody who appreciated it could explain why, and I think it has to do with good and evil, the fight between good and evil, and the challenge of good and evil, and the ability to project heroism within a particular context. But I don't like it. So, and if I don't watch a lot of it, so I really can't comment on most of horror. Andy says, how much, if any, did the Fed cause prosperity during the 1920s? Historians use this to ding Coolidge. Is this a mark against him and Mellon? No, I mean, I don't think there's significant evidence to suggest that the prosperity of the 1920s was all a bubble. Now, there's certainly towards the end of the 20s, I think after Coolidge is out of office, the Fed makes significant mistakes. It lowers interest rates too low. It increases the money supply in ways that it shouldn't, and it has to do with the way the Fed manages the gold reserves, and the way the British, the Bank of England, manage the gold reserves, and the way the Fed related to the Bank of England. So it's a lot of technicalities, but basically the Fed screwed up and did inflate to assert that caused the 20 boom. The 20 boom was a consequence of pent-up demand generated through World War I. It was caused by a boom in production, primarily by a boom in production, and you can measure that. There was massive amounts of innovation, massive amounts of expansion of products that already had been invented, from electricity to automobiles to the beginnings of flight. I mean, this is a great decade in terms of production, innovation, progress, wealth creation. It's only in the last couple of years of that decade does the Fed completely screw up in terms of inflating the money supply, creating a stock market bubble, or helping to create a stock market bubble, and then screwing up once the bubble bursts, turning a recession into a Great Depression, with a lot of help from Hoover and then from FDR. So historians are just basically, it's just not true. And I know a lot of people who claim this, but 1920s are real. There's real production there. Bree asks, the reason time seems to go faster when you get older is your brain edits out repetition. You and I have been on hundreds of airplanes. How many do you remember? New experiences is the cure, even if they are unpleasant. Oh, I don't want unpleasant new experiences. I have new experiences all the time. I mean, traveling, I'm going to new places, I'm speaking in front of new groups, I'm giving new talks. So I don't think there's a shortage of new experiences. My memory sucks anyway, so I don't remember much at all of anything. I don't remember. I don't have a distant memory. I don't have short-term memory. I just don't have good memory. Never have had. I don't remember my childhood. I don't remember much of my kids' childhood. I don't remember. I just don't remember. Everything is new and exciting to me because I don't remember anything. Kidding, but yes, it's interesting that people have different psychologies. Some people remember every little detail about the past. Other people like me barely remember the past. But yes, I'm sure there are lots of reasons why time seems to go faster. Partially, I'm not sure that time really does seem to go faster. It might be a very subjective experience. I've been saying exactly the same thing when I was 40. I'm not sure I can compare my sense of time in my 40s to my sense of time in my 60s. It seems like it's going faster, but I don't really know that that's. I don't know how to objectify that. Tom is saying, is Leonard writing a fiction book now? If not, what's he up to these days? He's not writing a fiction book. He is involved in a nonfiction project. I am not disclosing that project. I'll leave that to Leonard to disclose the project. It wouldn't be fair for me to jump in with that kind of disclosure. I know one of the passions he has right now is both listening and studying and understanding. You know, he did operettas and he still is listening to operettas, but he's also expanded beyond operettas to music, songs from the early part of the 20th century, and has, I think, some interesting things to say about them, the lyrics, the music, and I think that's a generally broadly, I don't think he's writing a book, but broadly something he's interested in and writing on. So I don't think that I'm revealing anything too private. But from the early part of the 20th century, not the early part of the 21st century. Look forward to something coming, I think, from that. All right, let's quickly do the Israeli elections. So Israel held elections, the fifth elections in like a year, 2 years, something like that. Ridiculous. They keep having elections. They couldn't form a coalition, but this election looks like it's pretty definitive. It looks like Netanyahu, the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history, will be able to form a coalition. He looks like he'll actually have a fairly strong coalition of 65, I think, very committed votes to him. It's going to be the most religious government in Israeli history. It will be the most right-wing government, not in the economic sense at all, but in the nationalist, religious, anti-individual liberty sense that Israel has ever had. Indeed, it's hard to imagine a government worse than what Israel is going to get now. I have never been a fan of Bibi's. I thought he has always been a compromising, weak, power luster. He gives a great speech in English, best speeches ever. Bibi speeches at the UN, Bibi speeches in front of Congress, Bibi speeches on American television. He's fantastic in English. He's horrible in Hebrew. He is, I think, generally a destructive, anti-liberty, anti-capitalism, anti-freedom force in Israeli politics. The government he is about to form will comprise of three other political parties. Two political parties that he's formed governments with before, but this time will have a disproportionate power because the majority will be so small, he'll depend on them for every vote. And they're the ultra-Orthodox religious Jews. They're the ones who wear black. They basically have a mentality of people from the 18th century. They like Bibi because they care little about Israel's security. They don't serve in the army. They care little about I don't know, Palestinians. They care little about anything, economic liberty, anything like that. The only thing they care about is that they want to make sure that young people, their ultra-Orthodox religious young people, don't serve in the military, that everybody else is forced into a draft. They want to make sure that their kids are not, that they are allowed to go and study and pray in the yeshiva instead. That's priority number one. Priority number two is that the Israeli government heavily subsidize, and it has in previous Netanyahu governments, and it's going to do so even more, this government, heavily subsidize men to not work. I don't know if you know how the ultra-Orthodox function. Ultra-Orthodox function where the men don't work, the women work. The men study all day. They pray and they study. Maybe they dabble in some business, maybe they dabble in work, but most of them do not work. The women do the work. The women raise the kids. The women take care of the home. The men do God's work. They pray and they study. And what the ultra-Orthodox Jewish political parties want, and they've received from Bibi, and they will receive it again in spades this time, is massive subsidies for these men not to work. Now, this is what's fascinating about Israel, is this is the fastest growing population in Israel. This is a population whose demographics are going to dwarf any other group in Israeli society. They have more kids than other Jews. They have more kids than Arabs. They have more kids than anybody. And yet, they produce nothing. They don't work. They don't produce. They don't create. They live off of the state. They are massive beneficiaries of the welfare state. And this is a group cultivated from and cultivated by and supported by Bibi. It's a group that, again, doesn't care about Israeli security. They don't care about the army. They don't care about the Arab threat. All they care about is that they are subsidized to go and pray every day and that they don't have to work. There is no more corrupt a group in Israel. I mean, I don't think the communists are any worse than these guys. Their societies are primitive, barbaric, religious fundamentalists of the worst kind. So that's one group that Bibi will form a government with. One of the reasons that the rest of the political spectrum in Israel so hateful of Netanyahu is because the secular political parties in Israel have tried over and over and over again over the years to form governments that did not include these religious parasites. And and to do that, they have to exclude Bibi, because Bibi won't join a government unless the religious parasites are part of it. So it's unbelievable, and look, it's not insignificant, because the amount of money, the amount of resources, the amount of time, the amount of effort that goes into appeasing these ultra-religious groups. Now let's add to the third thing. They want all the stores to be shut down on Saturday. They want buses to stop running on Saturday. These are communities that if you drive nearby their streets, they will stone you. They will throw stones at your car. They want to control much of kind of civil marriage laws in Israel. They are massive violators of individual rights, massive imposers. I mean, Israel is closer to being theocratic than at every point in time in the past, because Bibi won. Now, so that's the two ultra-religious, ultra-Orthodox political party. The other political party, the third political party, that won an amazing anywhere between 13 to 15 mandates, is a political party called Religious Zionism. This is a political party that's composed of a number of different smaller political parties, all on the religious right, not ultra-Orthodox. These are more like Orthodox Jews, yarmulke wearing, still religious, and more like, in terms of their religiosity, more like Ben Shapiro. But these are not all of them, but there's elements within this political party. The elements within the political party that are explicit racists, haters of Arabs, they even more than the ultra-Orthodox. See, the ultra-Orthodox community, the ultra-Orthodox political parties, all they really care about is the ultra-Orthodox political parties and the ultra-Orthodox community. It's all they care about. They don't care about Israel. They have no commitment to Israel. They have no interest in Israel. The religious Zionism party, these Orthodox Jews, they care about Israel. They are big Zionists. They want a one-state solution. They want to get rid of the Palestinians. They want to kick them out of Israel. But not only that, they want to reform secular Jews. They want to impose their religiosity on secular Jews. They want to make Israel a religious state because they care about Israel. They don't just care about their own small community. They want to grow the community of religious fanatics. This is, with 14 mandates, while there are elements there there's some elements within this political party that has some free market views. These are the worst kind of statists, fascist theocrats that one can imagine. Bibi has already said that some of the worst people in this political party, including one of them who is an explicit racist, are going to have positions in the government. They're going to have power. This election is the worst possible outcome for Israel. I can't think of a realistic outcome that's worse than this. Now, what's interesting about Israel, and what's I think important to note, is that Israel has no left. It has no left wing. So I want to go through the political parties in order of their membership in the Knesset, in Parliament. So the Likud is the largest, that's Bibi's party. The Likud is the largest with 32 mandates. This is out of 120. The Likud is a center-right political party. It is centrist on economics and right-wing on issues of nationalism. I believe they're also pretty centrist on national security issues. They're pretty bad on national security issues. Yesh Atid is the Yesh Atid, that it means in English, there is a future, has 24 mandates. They are a centrist party. They're not socialist. They're not for massive redistribution of wealth. On certain issues in economics, they're better than the Likud. They're not massive compromises with the Palestinians. They want more of a settlement than the Likud does, so they're not right wing, but they're not left in anything. They're not left in foreign policy. They're not left in national security. They're not left in economics. Yesh Atid is basically just center. It's a bunch of generals, so hard national security expertise, but also hard positions on national security. So that's center. So we've got center right, center. Then you got religious Zionism, far right. Then you got national unity. National unity, again, is a political party started by people who left the Likud. This is, and again, some more generals. This is basically a right-of-center political party. The only characteristic this right-of-center political party has that makes it different from the Likud is that they don't like Bibi. They don't like Netanyahu. So they will never form a coalition with Netanyahu, but they are, in pretty much every important issue, they're indistinguishable from the Likud. They're just straight right and center. So we have, we have one of the four biggest political parties. Two are right of center, one is far right, and one is center. What's the fifth largest political party? Shas, which is ultra-Orthodox. The sixth political party, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth political party is UTJ, another ultra-Orthodox political party. Still no leftist party, not a single one. The fifth political party is UAL. Now here you could argue this is a leftist political party. It's an Arab political party. This represents the Arab vote. And so does the next size political party, which is Hadash Ta'al, another Arab political party. I think this one's more of a Marxist political party. But anyway, they're both leftist Arab political parties. And then finally, the smallest political party of all of them, and the last political party to actually enter parliament, is Labour. So the Jewish left, if you will, the non-Arab left, has 4 seats out of 120. The Arab left has, Arab slash left, not all the Arabs there are left, but the Islamist political party was kicked out. So what's left is kind of Arab left, Arab nationalist. They have 10 mandates. So at most, the votes for a left-wing political party in Israel are about 10% of the votes. 10%. 90% of the votes are center to center right, to far right. And indeed, most of the votes here are right. The center has 24. So the left has 10%, the center has, let's say, 20%, and the right has 70%. The right, center right has 70%. I mean, that's stunning. That's stunning. If the right got along, if they could all come together, they would single-handedly dominate Israeli politics, and they do. The right is the only show in town in Israel. It's just which right. And in Israeli politics is less about ideas, less about political parties, less about political positions, and much more about personalities. And this is what Bibi has created. He's created a politics of personalities. And the only reason people vote for Likud is because they like Bibi, and the reason they vote anti-Likud is because they don't like Bibi, and that's it. Israel's become, and every general who leaves the army forms a political party and stuff. Israel's become dominated by the politics of personalities, and ideas are irrelevant. And again, all the ideas basically that dominate Israeli politics are center-right. There's very little to differentiate the political parties in Israel. But the left has the left economically, the left, and remember, Israel was a socialist country for many years. Labor used to be the biggest party in Israel by far. It formed most of the governments in almost all the governments until 1977 were formed by Labor. And it was dominant until about 10, 15 years ago, at which point it basically died. The left died. I think the left died really in the Second Intifada. But economically, people talk about redistribution and socialism, but Israel there's no energy for that. There's no sympathy for it. Israel is in every really topic a center-right country, and but it's not even close. No other country I know in the world has such a dominance of a particular worldview. Interesting. All right, so that's Israeli politics, the death of the left in Israel, I guess. Let's see. What should we do? Should we do Brazil quickly? Let's do Brazil quickly, and then we'll go to Super Chat. By the way, last night I had a phenomenal meal at Rosella, which is this amazing restaurant that Yaron Brooks show listeners often go to when they're in New York, and if they don't go to, they should go to. It was a fantastic meal. It was it was really amazing. And of course, the chef at the restaurant is a friend of the Iran Book Show, an objectivist, and an all around fantastic guy. So I encourage you, when you're in New York, go to Azella and ask. Ask for kind of the chef to just bring you what he likes. You won't regret it. It's a fantastic meal. Fantastic meal. All right, let's see. Anyway, Rosella, don't forget. Let's see. Yes, we're going to talk about Brazil. So Brazilian elections held, different outcome than in Israel. In Brazil, like pretty much the entire pretty much like the entire Latin America, all of South America is dominated by the left. So it's pretty amazing that over the last 2 years, every single country in South America has flipped from a relatively liberal right-wing government to a dominantly left-wing government. Every single one of them. Even a country like Colombia that has never elected a left-wing president, elected one. Chile, who was poor and kind of went free markets and became rich because of the free markets, because of the capitalism, elected a leftist president and is reversing much of the free market policies that were in place. In other words, the left is just, if you go to, so you can go right across South America. You can start with, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, of course, Bolivia. Maybe Ecuador is the exception. Is Ecuador the exception? I think Ecuador is the only Latin American country today that's not governed by a crazy left-wing government. Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, of course, they're all dominated now by the left. And of course, Brazil is the last one to fall. Now, I don't think Brazilians are quite as leftist as other Latin American countries. I think Brazil has the misfortune of having a Bolsonaro or a Trump-like person running on the right. I think Lula could have been defeated by somebody better than Bolsonaro. I'm not sure, because Bolsonaro and a Trump have a certain charisma and appeal to certain people. But, a lot of people voted for Lula just to avoid another term of Bolsonaro's, just like a lot of people voted for Biden just to avoid another term by Trump. So, but it seems unquestionable that Latin America has taken a massive turn to the left over the last just couple of years, 2-3 years, and that it's about time people start learning from that it's going to take a lot more than economic arguments. It's going to take a lot more than populist politics to change the dynamics of these countries. What it's going to take is a real political, philosophical, intellectual revolution. Defeating the left will only happen when we defeat collectivism and altruism. The left keeps coming back. I mean, I thought the left was dead forever in Chile. It's dominant today. I thought the left would never win in Colombia. It just won big time. So the only way to defeat the left is to actually crush it, completely crush it. And to crush it, you have to crush it intellectually. You have to crush it philosophically. And nobody's doing that, right? Nobody has the ideas. Nobody has the program to actually crush them other than objectivism. There's nobody out there that presents an actual challenge to the ideas behind the left. So even if you might get a swing to the right, ultimately, on at least the issues of economics, the swing will happen right back to the left because they hold the moral high ground. And as long as that high ground is not challenged, as long as their morality is not challenged, as long as the collective is not challenged, they will keep pushing on economic issues, on economic liberty issues. They will keep pushing the pendulum to the left. All right. So Bolsonaro is doing a Trump while he lost the elections. He hasn't conceded, but he's engaging in the transition. And he's telling the people demonstrating against Lula's election to stop. So he's accepted the results, but he's not conceding. In other words, he's leaving his options open to do a Trump and to pretend like he never lost, to pretend that the election was stolen, just like Trump did, and to build up his credibility based on that. I don't think it buys him anything. I don't think it will buy him anything. But it looks like Lula will be president of Brazil. We'll see how bad he will be. As my Brazilian friends say, it's basically ruled by gangsters. Lula and his gang are gangsters. It's not even that they're committed socialists, committed leftists. They're committed to thieving and stealing and the massive corruption that comes with it. All right. All right, let's do some super chats. PBS, how does the freeway, carpool, low occupancy lane relate to individual rights? Why should the solo individual driver yield to those carpooling according to arbitrary state rules? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't relate to individual rights. Of course, individual rights would dictate that the government shouldn't own the roads. But given that it does, it sets the rules, but the rules can be equal treatment before the law. They can be rational, they can make some sense, or they can be capricious. And suddenly the carpool lanes are complete capriciousness. They have nothing to do with safety. They have nothing to do with maintaining the roads. They have everything to do with a climate agenda that tries to incentivize us to carpool. We don't anyway. I don't think it really works. Supposedly they're there to reduce traffic jams. Again, if you've ever traveled it's a way to, if you ever travel to California, you know that it hasn't solved any of the traffic problems. Ignorant Richard is saying, you don't know what's going on in Brazil, Iran. Best to wait and watch, not look like a fool going off half-cocked. Yeah, just like you accused me of doing the same thing in Ukraine, and it turned out I was right across the board. I know exactly what's going on in Brazil. I have more connections in Brazil than you will ever have in your entire life. I've been to Brazil more times than you have ever been. You have no concept of what's going on in Brazil. You don't know Brazil. You are you're the poster boy of ignorance and hubris, of spouting off about issues you know nothing about, and not admitting when you're wrong, and not not fessing up to your own errors. So go away, Richard. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? All right, Ali asks, I was following a couple of conservative or Republicans on Twitter soon after Elon Musk took over. They turned into bashing individuals on the left instead of the right is anti-left, to bash the left, to go after the left, to make fun of the left. There is no real, actual intellectual content that they're advocating for. There's no intellectual argument There is, whoops, have I frozen again? No, the video seems to be working. There's no intellectual content to the right. There's no intellectual argument. There's no actually debate going on. There's attacking the right, attacking the left, trashing the left, doing everything. Internet is freezing. Oops, looks like something's frozen. Okay, it goes in and out. No principles, no ideas. All right, yeah, Ali, I agree with you. It's sad and pathetic and depressing that these are the people who supposedly represent liberty in this country. Jeffrey says, I was late to the show, please start over. Nope, can't do that, sorry. Next time, don't be late. Don't be late. All right, let's see, where are we? Mike, thank you. Mike, $100. I greatly appreciate your work, Mr. Brook. I really appreciate the support. Thank you, Mike. That gets us a lot closer to our goal for today. So $100 left. So that $100 got us $100. So hopefully somebody will step in here and get us over our goal for tonight. Although it is late, I know many of you are. Yeah, I mean, Richard is both poor and cheap. Never asks a super chat question. Just makes snide comments on the side. That is his speciality. That is what he's particularly good at. All right, let's see. All right. Armin, thank you. Armin just did $200, got us over our goal. Thank you, Armin. Armin says, thanks for the great show. Side note, I could be wrong, but I have a sense that you are not concerned about global warming and environmental issues. Could you help me understand why we shouldn't be? I'm not. I have to admit, I'm not concerned about climate change. I'm not concerned about environmental issues, primarily because the solution to climate change and the solution to almost all environmental issues is technology, and it is property rights. The solution to climate change is the kind of technologies that protect us from the climate. It's buildings that can resist hurricanes. It's air conditioning. It's heating in the winter. It's the human mind's ability to take a harsh environment. I mean, how do people live in Northern Europe? It's taking that technology and using it in spite of climate change to make life habitable, to make it livable. Amsterdam is below sea level. Amsterdam is below sea level. It's a long time ago, they built, hundreds of years ago, they built dikes to protect Amsterdam from the seas rising and to protect it from flooding. Why isn't that the solution for all the places like Florida and other places that might flood in the future? And why? And if places like that do flood in the future, is that life altering in a sense that people will just move? They'll move to places. They'll move to places that are not being flooded. Human beings have moved because of climate change before. We have migrated. We'll continue to migrate, and there's no reason why, if you buy property by the ocean, I should stop using fossil fuels to live my life so that you never get flooded. One way to prevent people from living in places that might get flooded is for the government to stop subsidizing their insurance and to let insurance companies price it based on the real damage that might be caused when climate change happens. So I just see so many market mechanisms to control this and to deal with it and to allow us to survive no matter what the weather is. I mean, indeed, global warming is unpleasant, but global cooling would be a lot worse. A lot worse. Having another ice age would be a lot worse. It's just going to happen, whether it's man-made or not. Climate will change, and we as human beings will adapt to it using science and technology. Now, that doesn't mean there shouldn't be investment in alternative energies. They should. It makes sense if we can drive the price down. But it doesn't make sense to stop using fossil fuels, because if we stop using fossil fuels, our standard of living will decline much, much, much faster. And our quality of life will decline much, much, much faster than anything the weather can do to us. Climate change is less of a threat to human well-being than ending fossil fuel uses. So the solution is, if you want to, if fossil fuels are doing damage and you want to, over time, reduce fossil fuel usage, the solution is nuclear. And one of the ways you know that the environmentalists are not completely honest is their opposition to nuclear. If they really wanted to reduce fossil fuel use, they would be the biggest supporters in the world of nuclear energy. Now, other issues in environmentalism, clean air, clean water, everybody's for clean air and clean water. But those are issues that are solved through private property. Those are issues that are solved through the court system. Those are issues that are solved by showing that a particular pollutant hurts human life and suing the companies that pollute. It's by people demanding cleaner. And free countries tend to be cleaner than non-free countries. So what we want is more free countries. What we want is more technology. What we want is more innovation. By the way, technology leads to cleanliness, because one of the things technology does is it increases efficiency. And what does efficiency mean? It means less waste, less pollution. The whole movement towards greater wealth, greater technology adoption, greater efficiency, and greater productivity is a move away from pollution and away from waste. So it's that's the solution. So I don't get excited about environmentalism, and I only get excited about climate change because I can see very clearly what the solutions are, and the solutions are more economic liberty, not more government oppression. Oh, Tessa saw the debate at UT between Alex Epstein and John Dodgett about climate change and about fossil fuels. So Tessa, you should write up a little report here. I'll read it out. How did it go? Did John Wayne says Dodgett strawmanning half the time? I'm curious how you think Alex held up, how he dealt with the strawmanning, because that's all they do. That's all our opponents and the left do when we debate them, is they strawman, because they don't have arguments to come back at us. And yes, Armin, if you want to understand my position on fossil fuels and climate change, the best person out there is on this issue is Alex Epstein. You should get his new book, Fossil Future, and you should read his work. Look up Alex Epstein, Fossil Future. It's on Amazon. It's on everywhere, and that is the book that I would say presents the most important information about the whole issue of climate change from an objectivist perspective. Brian Kaplan, the libertarian philosopher, is doing a whole series of posts about Alex's book. Huge fan. He's a huge fan of it. Michael. Okay, so now we're doing a bunch of Super Chat questions. Under $20. We're way over our goal, so thank you everybody, particularly Armin, particularly Mike, who really pushed us over the top pretty quickly here. Michael asked, there is no way Trump even runs again. He's too old and overweight, and the GOP establishment will lock him out. I think you're overly optimistic. I'm convinced. I think it's going to be hard for Trump not to run again. He's too much of a narcissist not to try to win again. Armin, thank you for another $50. Wow. I mean, Armin is super supportive of the show today. Thank you, Armin. let's see, where are we? All right. That was Michael. Here's more Michael. Michael says, "Is Halloween a nihilistic holiday?" No, I don't think so. It's a fun holiday. People get dressed up. They go party. I mean, I don't particularly like the idea of trick or treating. It seems like blackmail to me. Like, if you don't give me something, I'm gonna trick you. I'm gonna do something bad to you. But overall, it's just a fun holiday. It's dress up and you get candy. There's nothing nihilistic about it. Colt jumps in with a $20 question. He is now updating us on his parents. Now that I've got my parents on board, I'm not going to bring the anti-Trump message to my brothers. My oldest brother will be easier. Oh, he is. I'm not going to bring the anti-Trump message to my brother, so I am. My other brother will be harder. He has the dangerous religion of environmentalism. Yeah, this is why you need to read, if you haven't read yet, Alex's book, and maybe get your brothers to read Alex's book, and that'll hopefully get the environmentalism out of him. But glad you've got your parents on board, and now, yes, time to get the rest of the family and the rest of the people, and it's one mind at a time. Micah says, if Trump miraculously wins again, will Antifa and alt-right return in full force? Will there be many more Charlottesville in the future? Yeah, I think if Trump wins again, Trump is an agent of chaos. It's part of his shtick. He likes the chaos. He thrives on it. And I think you'll see more chaos in our future if he wins again. Liam, do you agree with the quote, a great man is hard on himself, a small man is hard on others? And not exactly. I don't like quotes like that. I don't like quotes like that. I can talk again. Because they oversimplify and they generalize, and it's not very useful. It is true that a small man is hard on others, but look at the movie Whiplash, where he drives the student and he really pushes him. Is that a small man? He's not a small man doing it. He's somebody who has high standards. So I just don't like these quotes because they're not all. Magazine was on Joe Rogan. I'm not surprised, but he also has interviewed me. It's Shermer. Michael Shermer is the chief editor for Skeptic Magazine. He's the one who approached me about writing the piece. It'll be out next month. And Michael Shermer did a long interview with me. I don't know if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. Daniel asks, I wonder what Yaron thinks of Andrew Tate. I really don't think much of Andrew Tate. I don't know much about Andrew Tate. The little I've seen, I'm not impressed. It's part of this manosphere and this attitude towards women that I generally do not like. Florida Nick, I hope the Iran protests are successful. Me too. But in all the videos I've watched, there are no American flags. Does it mean anything? Yeah, it means that they understand that if they wave American flags, it will hurt their cause. It won't help them. That is me, and it'll change the focus of demonstrations away from what they're really about, and that's getting rid of the theocracy. It's not about America. It's about getting rid of the theocracy, and America has nothing to do with it. So I'm glad that they're not waving American flags. Plus, America doesn't deserve it because America's not giving them the kind of support that they deserve. So I'm not sure we deserve having our flag waved around. But no, I'm not surprised. It's a good strategic move. Don't use the American flag. This is not about America. For Iranians, America doesn't represent liberty and freedom. Don't use it. The power of these demonstrations is that they're focused on the theocratic nature of the regime. They're focused on their attacks on women that are based on religion. Property and individual rights. Why need government? Well, where does the law come from? So how are you enforcing law? Where does the law come from? Who sets the law? Who determines the law? Which law are you enforcing? Whose law are you enforcing? Property rights. Yeah, I mean, you should be able to protect your own property rights. But what if there's a conflict around property rights? What if you think your property line is here and your neighbor thinks it's over there and you get to just fight it out? You have weapons, he has weapons, and you fight it out. What about somebody who uses these weapons and technology irrationally, immorally, to aggress against somebody else? You'll protect yourself. What if the guy who's taking your property has bigger guns than you do, and he takes it over? There's no recourse? The problem with anarchy is it's unworkable. I mean, there are many problems with anarchy, but it's unworkable because it's immoral and therefore impractical. Raphael asks, "Hi, Yaron. You are so good. I'm wondering if you could convince me of socialism if you were one. What arguments did you use in favor of socialism before Atlas shrugged? Thanks for coming to Portugal." I mean, I don't remember. I was also very young. I don't think I could convince you of socialism. But at the end of the day, the best argument for socialism, and I think the argument I used, was there was the only moral system, that if altruism is the moral code and nobody challenged altruism, then socialism was the only political system consistent with altruism. And I think that's how I would have phrased it back then. Not in terms of altruism, but in terms of living for other people, sacrificing for other people are your focus, then socialism is the system. What else is there? Michael asked, is there a difference between being wanted and being valued? Well, I mean, if being valued does not have to be rational, then no. A value, values are that which you act to gain or keep. So if somebody's wanting you, it's not enough to want, it's the acting to gain the want that makes it a value. So to the extent that they're acting on it, then you're valued to them, you're being valued. But that doesn't mean it's rational. That doesn't mean a pro-life rational value. Michael, is objectivism a science? What distinguishes philosophy from science? What gives philosophy the authority to have veto power over certain scientific discoveries about quantum phenomena? Objectivism is not a science. Objectivism is a philosophy. Philosophy is the foundational knowledge on which science functions. There is no science without philosophy, without philosophical assumptions about the world, without a certain philosophical understanding of the world. Science is done. For example, philosophy has a theory of knowledge, all knowledge, including scientific knowledge. So it precedes, in the hierarchy of knowledge, it precedes science. So if a scientific discovery contradicts a philosophical axiom in the scientific your fundamental axioms of knowledge, because science is knowledge, and if it contradicts it, you've got a contradiction. And contradictions should not, don't exist in reality, and you need to solve them. You need to figure out what the problem is. Liam says, what makes Bibi such an effective politician? Is Israel moving in a more religious, fascist direction like the rest of the West, or has Bibi surrounded himself with more free market people? No, he has not surrounded himself with more free market people. He abandoned free markets years ago. He used to be a free market person, but the last time he did good free market stuff was about 15 years ago. He has not surrounded himself with good free market people. In the contrary, he's alienated a lot of the free market people, alienated and have moved away from him. What makes him an effective politician is that he's a demagogue. He knows how to manipulate people. He knows how to manipulate the situation. He's a smart political maneuverer. He knows how to give the right amount. He's a good negotiator. He knows how to manipulate people. He's a people manipulator, and he's very good at that. Is Israel moving towards religious fascist? I mean, Israel as a population is not, because the fact is that the majority of Israelis are secular. The majority of the people, I think, who vote for the Likud, for Bibi's party, are secular, but they form a coalition and give disproportionate power to the religious fanatics. And in that sense, Israel could enter a period of relative religious kind of fascism. it won't survive because most of Israel is not that. Most of Israel is secular. Secular sentence, secular right, but secular. Russians, it's just what characterizes as Russians, but they're very secular. But the secular center right, and they refuse to sit in a coalition with the religious parties, and that's why they don't join any of Bibi's coalitions, because they refuse to sit in a coalition with the religionists. Good for them. I'm all for them. Michael says, is violence the lowest form of communication? Well, I don't think it's communication. What makes people abandon the humanity and resort to it? Whim, worship, mysticism, a commitment to a higher cause, a greater. It's not an interaction. James Taylor says, have you seen Chuck Schumer watching over and applauding Joe Biden like Joe used the party for the first time? There's a 0 chance this man runs in 2024. I hope you mean Biden. I hope. I mean, wouldn't it be an amazing world if neither Trump nor Biden ran? I mean, that would be really cool. James asks, what begins in rage will end in shame? Often true. Often true. Gail says, I've been realizing that the hatred of FF and industrialization. What is FF? Hatred of FF. What am I missing? And industrialization has been going on for 100 years. I have come to realize the demonization of FF and industrialization has been going on for 100 plus years. Yes. I'm not sure what the question is. Yeah, I mean, 19th century. I mean, think about Dickens in England, and think about the mudrackers in the United States. Think about them calling people, oh, fossil fuels. Yes, I mean, they were going after Rockefeller. Back then, FF is fossil fuels. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. It's been going on since the days of Rockefeller. It's been going on since the progressives started to significantly, start to become significant intellectuals in America in the mid to late 19th century. And since then, they've only grown in power. The left has grown and grown and grown. And now everybody, left and right, demonize industrialization and call the industrialists the robber barons, and want to break up big tech and want to break up big business and use antitrust. And they're all anti-business today. But this is the leftist agenda that started with the progressive movement in the 19th century. Michael asks, why are objectivists able to see connections others can't? Do we have superpowers, or are they the rarest of minorities that actually choose to be honest? No, I mean, the superpower is the valuing reason, seeing the world as one. Leonard Peikoff has taught us to integrate, and the importance of integration, and focusing on integration as an aspect of reason, as a key aspect of reason. And we just pay attention to it. We know everything is connected to everything at the end of the day. So we pay attention to it. We devote energy to it. I mean, a great composer and a great conductor. He was one of the great conductors of the late 19th century, early 20th century. But he had a really, really sad life that is very much reflected in his music. Michael asks, why is rapid growth in anti-Semitism often a precursor to authoritarianism, although most Jews and Israelis I talk to don't seem too worried about Kanye West? Because authoritarianism almost always relies on some form of tribalism, and as such, the vilification of the other, the vilification of those who do not belong to a particular tribe. And in this case, the Jews have always been a very convenient. They're outsiders. They're very successful outsiders. They have this. People view them as manipulative. There's already a tradition of it, right? They're capitalizing on. Whoops, frozen again. It looks like, but long history of it. All right, as they are, and we'll do the rest of them next time. Sorry, but the hotel internet connection here is lousy. I'll be back home on Saturday. There'll be a show on Saturday. I'll make up all these. I'll cover all these super chat questions on Saturday. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you for all the super chatters. Thanks for the support. Really appreciate it. And I will see you from Puerto Rico on Saturday. Not sure exactly what time, but on Saturday will be the next show. Bye, everybody.